This is called a query. And anytime you're on a query, there's a new tab that says query. I could say edit. I could decide not to get certain columns. For example, I don't want that column. Close and loads. Come on. You could also, come on, hit properties. And I'm going to refresh this every 5 minutes. I'm going to also refresh it when opening the data file. Enable fast data loads. You could also give a name to the table, but every 5 minutes, this table is going to update itself. So if you want a live exchange rates on your Excel, that's one way of doing it. Again, it has nothing to do with this class, but it's always a good idea to get it. Okay. Oh, we were going to do it for Disney. It's a stats tab. TP is 3592. Okay, based on trailing 12 months, it takes about 44 years for you to recover your investment into Netflix, and it takes about 36 years to do the same in Disney. If those were the only choices of investment for you, I basically am making you an offer you can't refuse. You guys know what that euphemism means? I mean, that reference is now 52 years old. It's an expression from the Godfather movie. It means you either do what I want or your brain is going to be on the table. That's an offer you can't refuse. You're going to pick either Netflix or Disney to invest. And the only information you have is the trailing PE ratio. With Netflix, it takes you 44 years to recover your investment. With Disney, 36. Which one would you invest in? Hmm? Disney. I mean, it's almost a rhetorical question. Okay, you want your investment to turn back to you as early as possible. The trouble is that information is based on past numbers. So let's look at the FPE for Disney. Forward PE is 1783 compared to Netflix of about 31. Same deal based on the expected earnings over the next 12 months. Disney is much cheaper. Okay. It could have been the other way around. For example, if you looked at, I'm leaving this as an exercise to you. If you made a comparison between NVIDIA and Microsoft, uh, based on trailing PE, Microsoft is a much more desirable investment. Based on forward PE, NVIDIA is. Because NVIDIA is only growing. And Microsoft is also growing, but not as fast. So FPE gets rid of one objection to trailing PE. It is not backward looking. But now we're going to think about, am I doing this investing only for 1 year of earnings? This Next year, company may not be able to grow that much, but maybe the year after that, they will. So one ratio people use, I mean, in my own analysis, I use something a little bit different, but what I'm going to show you is available in published sources, published websites. It's called the PEG ratio. It's literally PE divided by expected 5-year growth rate per annum. That's Latin for per year. For Netflix, 0.4, that's for Disney. And let's see what it is for Netflix. Again, all I have to do is change the 153. Again, based on these, Disney still appears to be a better investment. You can kind of see it if you go to the bottom of the analysis page in Yahoo Finance. You're going to see the growth estimates. And for Netflix, it's about 25% per annum. And they grew about 23 over the past years. That's still faster than the expected growth rate of the S&P 500, which is pretty high in and of itself. I mean, normally you would expect growth rate of an index as wide as the S&P 500 to be pretty close to the growth rate of the economy. 90% of the market cap is S&P 500. The trouble is about 65 to 70% of S&P 500 is the top 10 companies or the Magnificent Seven. Since those guys are expected to grow at a very high rate, S&P 500 is also high. If you looked at the bottom 490, you're going to find something about 6. In fact, I calculated that over the summer. That's about the rate. And the expected growth rate of U.S. economy, including inflation, somewhere between 5.5, 6 anyways. That's what you would expect. But since there's a big gap between the growth rate of the top 7 and the rest, S&P 500 is expected to grow a lot faster. On the other hand, let's look at the growth rate expected for Disney. It's about 15 years. I mean, I don't believe that PEG number is. If you took, uh, maybe, yeah, if you took 1783, divide that by 15%, you get one something, not 0.44. Since I have no idea how Yahoo Finance calculates those numbers, anytime you use summary info from published sources, make sure to find out exactly how they calculate it. Those PEG numbers don't make any sense. Better using the trailing or P forward. If I divided forward P's by the expected 5-year growth rates, I don't get those numbers. But we could calculate it ourselves. I'm going to call this forward peg, which is FPE divided by, I'm going to call that G5. G5 is so for Netflix, I'm sorry. I mean, these guys have an appointment at 1:30 today at my doctor's. I get about 5 texts over 3 days. And every time they ask me, you need a paper to tell you? I said, no, because you're going to email me to death. Uh, forward is 3125 divided by about 25, so 125. For Disney, 1783 divided by 1581, 112. For all intents and purposes, they're pretty close. Remember, these things are based on expected earnings next year and expected growth rates. By definition, they're forecasts. As you know, each forecast has a margin of error.